Welcome to Chasing News. I'm your host, Bill Spadia. We've got a huge show for you tonight. Total incompetence at NJ Transit. Big surprise there. And of course, your headlines and your weather. Speaking of weather, huge storm, Hurricane Harvey, pounding the Texas coast. People in a very, very difficult spot with feet of rain and more to come. And the real question is, why didn't they evacuate? You're going to hear both sides of that debate raging throughout the weeks to come. We're going to talk about it tonight on Chasing News. I want to start with the full story from Ashley Johnson. Ashley, what do you got for us?
The images of the destruction from Tropical Storm Harvey throughout Texas are heartbreaking. The Federal Emergency Management Agency reports 30,000 people are forced to seek emergency shelter. At least 5 deaths have been reported, and 450,000 people are expected to seek federal aid in recovering from Harvey. But the big question remains as to why people weren't forced to evacuate. This is a stark contrast from what we saw in New York and New Jersey during both tropical storms Irene and Sandy. At the time of Sandy, Mayor Michael Bloomberg ordered hundreds of thousands evacuate New York City, and Governor Christie mandated many evacuate their homes in New Jersey.
I think all of our mothers taught us, if we could avoid it, don't be stupid. So don't be stupid, get out.
The 5-year anniversary of Sandy is quickly approaching. Christie says despite Texas legislators rejecting Hurricane Sandy aid during Harvey, he'll take the high road.
The congressional members in Texas are hypocrites. And I said back in 2012, they'd be proven to be hypocrites. It was just a matter of time.
Now, Governor Christie deployed NJ Task Force 1 to help with recovery efforts from the unprecedented flooding we've all seen. It's an elite division operating under New Jersey State Police and New Jersey Office of Emergency Management, which is made up of technical search and rescue specialists at the top of their game from both the public and private sectors. 16 members trained in swiftwater rescue headed out Sunday night, making their way to Austin, Texas.
You know, just knowing people are there to help is really important, and then you can call on those resources when you need them. So I'm not wasting my time picking up the phone and calling Governor Abbott. He's got plenty to do. We spoke before the storm, and I let him know anything he needed, we would be here to help.
Hurricane Harvey, which downgraded to a tropical storm, made landfall late Friday night, bringing heavy rain to the Houston area. The National Weather Service tweeted that the storm was, quote, beyond anything ever experienced, and predicted parts of Texas could reach an all-time high of 50 inches of rain.
I'll be going to Texas tomorrow. I look very much forward to it. Things are being handled really well. The spirit is incredible of the people. The coordination between all of the different services, as you know, has been going very well. Great respect for the governor. He's done an incredible job.
Now, New Jersey could be sending more members of the task force into Texas as officials expect more rain over the next couple of days and that floodwaters will recede slowly. In Newark, Ashley Johnson with Chasing News.
Thank you, Ashley. Guys, we're now joined by the mayor of Seabright, Dina Long. Dina, welcome to Chasing News. You have lived through this. You know, we actually wanted to talk to you tonight because of your tweet, wishing everyone well and understanding the hardship that was taking place over the next couple days, weeks, and even months in Texas. So we appreciated that comment you made on Twitter. And I want to ask you, you lived through Sandy as a mayor. So my first question to you is, do you think they made the right call not to evacuate?
In my experience, emergency management officials are professionals. So I feel like it's not for me in New Jersey to question decisions that professionals made in Texas. I will say that during Sandy, the most dangerous rescues were made of people who tried to evacuate during the height of the storm and during the height of the flooding. So I think sometimes it is prudent for people to shelter in place. I'm sure the people who live in coastal Texas did not wait when the evacuation orders came into their communities.
Dina, how does this compare to your experience in Seabright? What was the worst thing that happened during Sandy? And do you see some parallels to what's going on in Houston now?
I do see parallels in that the recovery process is going to take a very long time. Seabright, we evacuated for the storm. We're able to come back and start cleaning up relatively quickly, meaning within a matter of weeks. Even now, 5 years later, we're still operating some municipal functions out of trailers. So recovery takes a very long time.
What do you think one of the controversies raging, at least on social media today and some of the headlines, hitting the Texas politicians who were opposed to Sandy aid?
There's a part of me that's happy to see that called out, but it's a humanitarian crisis, and politics really have no place.
All right, Mayor Dina Long from Seabright, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate it. All right, let's bring in our A-plus panel today. Laura Nanos, great to have you here. You're a lawyer and a legal analyst. Good to see you again. Frank Luna, Chief of Staff in the district for Congressman Tom MacArthur. Thanks for being here. And Wayne Smith Associates, and the former mayor of Irvington. Wayne, let me start with you. You're a mayor. You were a mayor. Do you think it is a fair criticism, people talking about, and you heard Mayor Long talk about this, the evacuation issue?
Well, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, but very hard to make those critical decisions. Emergency management is run by plans. And so this is a 500-year occurrence. You can't ultimately plan for everything. I don't know. I have to agree with Mayor Long, because we're not on the ground there. We don't know what the obstacles were with moving all the folks. Certainly the mayor's going to get some heat. That's a spot that you can't avoid when something goes wrong. I think the contingency planning going forward was going to teach them lessons. If anything like this ever happens again, they'll have some alternative plans. I'm sure they'll have more generators. They'll look at what's happening in nursing homes, hospitals. Maybe you move some critical folks as opposed to others.
Frank, let me turn to you. You're working for a member of Congress, Tom MacArthur. I mean, is it a fair criticism to say that FEMA's been down on the job before, and there are a lot of folks that may have voted against aid because they have a fear that even putting any more resources into FEMA not necessarily going to help a lot of people, that the real help is coming from the ground and the locals?
FEMA, I think, is great in the immediate aftermath, and they need a ton of reform for what happens down the line. And right now we're seeing some national flood insurance program stuff going on in Congress that Congressman MacArthur is really focused on, because our folks need the help.
Hey, Laura, when you look at what happened in Texas, it was largely private people stepping up, citizens grabbing their boats, coming in and pulling people out.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that these tragic and difficult situations really show us the need for us to pay attention to what our government is doing, because it's very easy for government officials to, for example, vote against funding FEMA and blame it on, this money is being used for the wrong things, or this is pork barrel spending. And then because that's politically expedient for them at the time, and then when they're the ones that need the money, that now, they also want their vote on record for helping their citizens. So I think it's important for us to all be paying attention, and for everyone, government officials and private citizens, to be learning from hurricane to hurricane, to learn and build on the knowledge that we get.
But is it fair to criticize on one vote? I mean, people are calling this Houston's Dunkirk. You've got all these boats descending upon the flooded areas and pulling people out. To me, that is not necessarily a failing of government. That's just what people do in a tragedy, and they step up. And I want to go back to the voting again. Is it fair for one politician to criticize another for how they voted? Scott Garrett, another New Jersey congressman, now former, was criticized heavily for voting against Katrina aid. But he said, look, I was voting against the incompetence at FEMA. I wasn't voting against sending money to people.
Politicians vote, so they should be criticized for their votes. And I think a lot of times you base your vote on the life experiences that you've had. So now that they see this, they've experienced it, they have to make sure that they step up for their residents. And that includes this aid package that is just going to be needed to rebuild the entire region.
Well, and of course, it's easy. I think you said it right, Wayne. It's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback. But when you hear the mayor of Houston and the local officials talk about this, that they had, of the 139 people that died during Hurricane Rita, go back to 2005, right after Katrina, 73 died before the storm in the attempted evacuation on the roadways. So there's a lot to be said about that. It sounds to me like they've done the best they can, but it's going to be a couple more days of another couple feet of rain.
We'll be there for years, though, rebuilding that part of Texas.